here in Canada, the first one of the nice weather, and this is traditionally the weekend when people open their cottages or get their gardens going or do a big spring cleaning. What am I doing? I'm making an Afghan! Why? Because I love them! And I've had so many requests to do the ripple stitch, the wave stitch, the zigzag, the traditional chevron. They're all the same thing. No matter what you call it, it's this action in a blanket. And this is the chevron pattern. It's a beautiful, classic, simple stitch. It's all double crochet, and that's what we're going to make today. So grab your favorite Afghan hook, something like a 5.5 millimeter, maybe a 6, maybe even a 7, some nice, thick, warm yarn, or something skinny and baby-sized if you want to make it for a little person. This is just the stitch. So it doesn't matter what yarn you choose, it doesn't matter what hook you choose, as long as they match. Grab those things, grab your scissors, grab a yarn needle, and let's go to the craft table, and we're going to get into the ripple stitch. For the chevron stitch pattern Afghan that I'm making today, I am using worsted weight yarn in red and white. These are my patriotic colors. And in particular, it's the Red Heart Comfort. So these are two of the really big balls they make. They're 1,000 grams each, and it's a size 4 worsted medium weight yarn. So that's the yarn that I'm using. Because I'm using a thicker yarn and I want my stitches to be nice and loose, I'm using a bigger hook. So I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook. You can use a 6, a 6.5, or even a 7 millimeter hook. Just remember that the larger your hook, the bigger your stitches are going to be and the more lacy and drapey it's going to be. So I'm going to stick with a 5.5 millimeter. You're going to need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle. And I just thought I'd show you this yarn needle because it's kind of cool. This is a great needle for anybody who has issues seeing the eye of a needle. This can also deal or accommodate really thick yarn. So if you ever see these, you might want to pick them up. They're pretty cool. These in particular, the brand is the Kid, H-A Kid brand. And if I find the package, I will show it to you later. And that's all you need to get started, so let's go. In order to start, we need to create a foundation chain row. Now this pattern is based on multiples of 14 plus 4 stitches or 4 chains to start. So a multiple of 14 plus 4. And because I'm making a lapgan or a lap-sized throw blanket, I am going to start with 116 chains. So that's a multiple of 14 plus 4. So 116 chains for me. We're going to start with a slip knot, and you can make those any way you're comfortable. Make sure it can move around on your hook for ease and comfort, and start chaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Phew! And once you've chained your foundation row, it's a good idea to double count all your stitches because you want to make sure you have the right number. And once you've done that, we're going to start our pattern. We're going to begin by double crocheting. So this whole stitch pattern is worked in the double crochet stitch. So if you can do the granny square and the fan stitch, you can definitely do the chevron. We're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So count 1, 2, 3. And into the 4th chain, you're going to double crochet. Wrap your yarn around your hook. Put your hook through the chain you're going to be working. Wrap your yarn around your hook and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap your yarn again. Pull through the first 2 loops. That leaves you with 2 loops. Wrap your yarn again and pull through the last 2 loops. That's a double crochet. This is considered 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So the chain 3 at the beginning of your rows counts as a double crochet. We're going to continue to double crochet into the next 5 chains. Wrap, put your hook through the stitch you want to work, wrap your yarn, pull up a loop, wrap your yarn, pull through 2 loops, wrap your yarn, pull through 2 loops. We're going to double crochet into the first 5 chains after the 4th chain from the hook. And that looks like this. There's your chain 3 and your first double crochet. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets after that. Into the next 3 chains, we're going to do what's called a double crochet 3 together. All right? This is how you do that. Wrap your yarn around your hook. Put your hook through the first stitch that you're going to work, or in this case, the chain. Wrap your yarn and pull up a loop, just like you would if you were going to double crochet. Wrap your yarn, pull through the first 2 sets of loops, or the first 2 loops I should say, and that leaves you with a set of 2 loops on your hook. Next, you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook, and instead of pulling back through these 2, you're going to put your hook through the next stitch you want to work. So this is the second of the 3 stitches we're going to work. Wrap your yarn, pull up a loop. You've got 4 now. Wrap your yarn around your hook, pull through the first 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops here, but we're not finished. We're going to wrap our yarn around our hook, put our hook through the third of the 3 stitches that we're putting together, pull up a loop. Now you have 5 loops on your hook. Wrap your yarn, pull through the first 2. That leaves you with 4. And you're going to treat all 4 of these loops kind of like you would the last 2 of a regular double crochet. So you're going to wrap your yarn and pull back through all 4. Boom, 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 boom. And that creates 3 double crochet, but all together. Into the next 5 chains, we're going to double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, now before I go any further, let's just lay this down and look what's happening. We've got a V happening. There's a definite chevron starting. So the first fancy little thing you do, that double crochet 3 together, is what creates your dip or your valley. So this is the valley. Double crochet 3 together, create a valley. After you have double crocheted into the next 5, we are going to create the mountain peak. Identify the next chain in a row, and instead of double crocheting 3 together, we're going to put 3 double crochet into that single chain. So these are regular double crochets, but we're going to put 3 of them into the same stitch. 3 double crochets into the same stitch. And into the next 5 chains, we're going to double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, before I go any further, we're just going to lay it down here. And oh, look at that! Boom, boom, boom. Now we've got an actual wave happening. So that's the other reason that the chevron pattern is also called the ripple or the wave pattern, because you get a very definite wave action happening here. So to recap, when you double crochet 3 stitches together, you get a valley. When you double crochet 3 stitches into the same stitch, you get a peak. Valley, peak. This is the base of the entire pattern. So because we've done a peak and we've put in 5 double crochet, now it's time to do another valley. And how do we do that? We double crochet 3 together. So you identify the first chain you're going to start your double crochet 3 together into, work the first half of the stitch, wrap your yarn, pick up the next chain you're going to work, pull up a loop, wrap your yarn and work the first half of that stitch, wrap your yarn around your hook, identify the next chain you're going to work, pull up a loop, and work the first half of that stitch, and that leaves you with 4 chains, or the back half of 3 double crochets on your chain or on your hook, and you're going to treat them all as one. This is where the double crochet 3 together happens. We're going to wrap our yarn around our hook and pull them all together. And there is double crochet 3 together, and that creates a valley. Double crochet into the next 5. 1. And since we did a valley last, it's time to put in another peak. We identify the next chain in our stitch chain. This is quite long. Next chain or the next stitch, and you're going to work 3 double crochet into that single chain or that single stitch. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to work double crochets into the next 5 chains. 1, and let's recap. Definite wave action. I feel like going to the beach. This is the chevron. The pattern is now quite obvious, and we're not even finished the foundation row. So if you're excited, that's a good thing, because I'm awfully excited. The last thing we did was a peak, so now we have to put in a valley. And the valley is 3 double crochet together. So we're going to double crochet this stitch, and this stitch, and this stitch, all together. Now we're going to double crochet into the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We did a valley last, so it's time to make another peak. So into the next chain or the next stitch, you're going to double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Double crochet into the next 5. The last thing we did was a peak, so now we have to put in a valley. So we double crochet 3 chains together, or 3 stitches, depending on what part of the pattern you're on. This is just the foundation row, so that's why I say chains and not necessarily stitches, even though they are technically stitches. This is the pattern that you are going to repeat right across to the very end of your foundation chain. And when we get there, I'll show you how to end the row. I'm just coming up on the end of my foundation row. So I'm putting in my last 5 double crochets. And that is going to take me up to the very last chain in my foundation row. So I have 1 chain left, and into this last chain, I'm going to double crochet 2. Why 2, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. 2 double crochet here counts as a half a mountain peak. So your ripple is going to end peak, valley, half a peak, because it started half a peak, valley, peak. So every single row is going to start with a half a peak, and the first combination is going to be a full valley. Every row is going to end twisted. Every row is going to end with a full peak, a full valley, and half a peak. And that is what your foundation row should look like. Now, if you used a bigger hook or fluffier yarn, it's going to look a little different than mine. But that definite ripple or wave action, or chevron, is definitely obvious now. So now it's time to turn the corner and work on row 2. Because we're working in double crochet, we need a 3 turning chain. So we go 1, 2, 3 chains, flip our work, and by the time this gets into an afghan size, flipping is going to require lots of muscle, especially if you're using big fluffy heavy yarn, because we need to start our row with a half a mountain peak, and our chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We need to put 1 more double crochet into that first stitch. So we wrap our yarn, pick up a loop, wrap and go through the first 2 loops, wrap and go through the second 2 loops. There's our half a mountain peak. We're going to single crochet into the next 5. 1 and 5. And that brings us to the beginning of the valley. We need to double crochet the 3 stitches together that make up the valley. And this is no different than working into the chains, you're just working into the whole stitch. So you wrap your yarn, pick up and work the first half of a double crochet, pick up and work the first half of the second double crochet, and pick up and work the first half of the last double crochet. You'll now have 4 loops on your hook, wrap, and finish it off all together. There's your double crochet 3 together, and it continues the valley. So the pattern is the exact same for every single row. You work the next 5 double crochet, nice and normal. And that brings you up to the top of your mountain peak. And what do we do in the top of the mountain peak? We do 3 double crochets, all into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. We're now on row 2. We started with a chain 3, flipped our work, and double crocheted again into the first stitch because we need a half a peak to begin with. Went 5 stitches down, double crocheted 3 together to create the valley, went 5 stitches back uphill, and put a new mountain peak in, 3 double crochet in the same stitch. Now we're going to work 5 double crochet downhill, double crochet 3 together to create the valley, work 5 double crochet uphill, put 3 double crochet into the center or the top of that mountain peak to create another peak, and we're going to work 5, 3 together, 5, 3 into the same stitch, 5, 3 together, 5, 3 into the same stitch. And that pattern repeats and repeats and repeats. And if you're going to make nice big wide stripes like I am, then I'm going to put in maybe 4 rows of this pretty red, maybe 5. I'll decide when I get there. And then I'm going to show you how to simply change yarn color and head into the next stripe. Your pattern doesn't change, but you can change color anytime you want. You can make your stripes 1 row wide or 4 rows wide or 10 rows wide, and just remember to work the whole row and then change your color at the end. But when I get to changing colors, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm just coming up on the end of my second row here. 5. And I wanted to remind you that your chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and your beginning and end of every row has to begin and end with 2 double crochet in the same stitch. So when you get to the end, identify the top of that chain 3 and work 2 double crochet into it. 1, 2. 2 double crochet counts as a half a peak, and you want to end with a full valley and a half a peak. You want to chain 3 to start the next row, flip your work. Your chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Work another double crochet into that same stitch because you want to start with a half a peak, and then continue your pattern of 5 down, 3 together, 5 up, 3 into the same stitch, 5 down, 3 together, 5 up, 3 into the same stitch, all the way across. And remember, when you get to the end, you identify that chain 3 from the beginning of the last row, pick the top of it, and work 2 double crochet into it. I'm going to work on my nice fat stripes now, and I will see you when it's time to change color. 1, 2. All right, my stripes are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows wide. I have a downhill and an uphill count of 5 stitches. My rows are going to be 5 rows wide. And if you know me, you know how much I love numbers and math and everything meshing together neatly. So that's what I'm doing. My waves are going to be 5 rows deep. So now it's time for me to change color. I got to the very end of my row. I finished with my 2 double crochet in the same stitch, or the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. And now I'm going to cut my yarn. Grab my scissors, snip my yarn, and just pull it back through the working loop all the way, give it a nice tug, and that's knotted off. I'm going to flip my work. And now you can do one of 2 things here. You can grab your yarn needle and thread your tail in as you work before you put on your next row, or you can do what I'm going to do, and that's just work over top of it. So now I'm changing colors. I'm going to start with a slip knot, and I'm going to join this in the very end stitch here, the last stitch. This would normally be where I just chain 3 to continue, but instead I'm going to put my hook in. I'm going to join with a slip stitch, so that means I'm just going to wrap my yarn around my hook and pull it back through the working stitch and back through the loop on my hook. So that's a slip stitch. I'm going to chain 3 because I'm beginning the row, just like I never changed colors, and continue. Put a double crochet in that first stitch, and I'm going to work over top of my tails. I'm going to continue the pattern of double crochet into the next 5 stitches, all the while working over top of my tails. I just find this is kind of a handy, quick, neat way to do it. If your tails are long, this will work out and they probably won't unravel, especially if you go to wash your Afghan. If you are washing Afghans, wool, yeah, it's better to hand wash it and let it hang dry. If you're using acrylic like I am, just put it on a very light cycle in the washing machine and let it hang dry and it'll be just fine. So there's my chain 3 to begin with, double crochet in the same end stitch, 5 double crochet, and of course my first full exciting stitch is a double crochet 3 together because I'm creating a valley. And I'm just going to continue with my new color, work 5 rows of my new color, and then I'm going to switch back to the other color because I'm going to alternate between red and white. Nice and Canadian patriotic. But you know what? For all my American friends out there, this in red, white, and blue would be absolutely gorgeous. So here I go. I'm going to continue and I'm going to make this as long as I have yarn for. Yeah, so remember what I said about making a lapgan? Well, I changed my mind. I like this so much, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to make it as long as I want, and I think I'm even going to change up the pattern so that I have different colored wave stitches going. I don't know, I might keep the red and white. I'm not sure. That's the beauty about this pattern. You can just keep going and going and going. So I'm going to keep going. Borders. I love borders. You know how I'm always saying that a good border is like a frame for your artwork. Because of this kind of stitch, if you're going to put a border on it, you should probably just stick to the single crochet. And I talk about this kind of border a lot in my videos. All you would do is finish your regular pattern, and when you're ready to put on your border, pick your color, use the same sized yarn and the same sized hook, and just single crochet across the top, keeping the same pattern. So if it's a mountain peak, you want to make sure you do 3 single crochet in the same stitch. And if it's a valley, you want to make sure you do 3 single crochet together in the valley. You don't have to do that. If you decide you get all the way to the end and you don't want to put a border on it, you can totally leave the border off. But if you are going to do the border, just remember that it's a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. And then when you're working up the side, you want to work a nice even number of single crochets into this raw edge. These aren't real stitches, so you have to kind of pretend and create a stitch as you go. And a nice rule of thumb is maybe 2.5 single crochet for each double crochet, and that will eventually work itself out when you get up to the other end. That's if you want to put a border on. But you don't have to. This is the chevron, the ripple stitch, the zigzag, the wave pattern. I love it, and it is so pretty, and it will be an absolute decor to whatever room you want to put it in. It's great for baby blankets, it's great for afghans, it's great for throws, it's great for whatever you want to use it on. It's a lovely simple stitch, and I hope you guys enjoyed making it with me. One more thing. The last video we did was that cute little moss stitch tea towel holder, kind of a helpful thing for in the kitchen and elsewhere in the house. But I thought it would be such a fun thing to make an actual dishcloth. So that is the moss stitch in a dishcloth. I just put a simple little single crochet border on it. Anyway, that pattern for the dishcloth is available for free up on our website. So if you want to hop on over to our website, and I'm going to have the website roll in here so that you can see what it looks like. You can go there, go to our workshop page, scroll down the workshop page, and you'll see a picture of the moss stitch dish towel or dish rag, and you can print off that pattern for free and give it a try. This is a really cool stitch. It's one of my favorites, and it's a good one to have in your repertoire. So since we're all about stitches and patterns today, I thought I'd mention that too. That's it for today, everybody. I'm going to keep working on my afghan all long weekend, and when I'm finished, I'm going to post a picture of it up on Facebook and probably Google Plus and probably Instagram, because I can tell it's one of those things I'm going to be really proud of when I'm done. So stay tuned for that, and if you haven't already joined us on Facebook in the Facebook community at Jayda InStitches, please do so, because we have an awful lot of fun there, and everybody shares their pictures, and it's beautiful. It's like this mobile gallery. I love it. Anyway, that's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful long weekend if you're celebrating, and if you're not, enjoy the time and the warm weather and your new crochet stitch. And we will see you again really soon. Bye!